All right, welcome back, everybody. If you're new to watching the Rick Amato Show here on a One America News Network, I want to welcome you and thank you for taking the time to check us out. But I also want to hear from you to let me know what's on your mind, good, bad, or indifferent. You can email me directly, and you can do so at rickamato@oann.com, and follow me on Twitter at Amato Talk, and on Facebook at Rick Amato and the Rick Amato Show. Tomorrow's show, we'll read some email. I got a lot of angry email over the weekend because we had a lesbian Republican woman on who took a Catholic League president to task over the recent meetings and comments out of the Vatican. People thought I should have jumped in there and stood up for the and argued in favor of the Catholic president. We'll read those emails to you tomorrow night. A lot of angry email over that, and also the fact that we had an imam in studio. People weren't too happy about that. All right, things that I'm not happy about, quite honestly, is this administration's leadership on several serious fronts, including ISIS. Joining me this time from Wall, New Jersey, is the national security analyst for the Clarion Project, frequent guest on the show, Ryan Mauro. Ryan, good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, Ryan, one of the things that just jumps out at me here is that the Egyptian government is really at odds with this Obama White House, saying that, listen, you guys don't get it there in Washington. ISIS is originated out of the Muslim Brotherhood, the very same Muslim Brotherhood who this White House has embraced and continues to embrace. This is yet another, if true, it's another example of the White House swinging and missing on big issues. What can you tell us about this?
Sure, this is one of the biggest mistakes by the White House, because as the Muslim Brotherhood came into power in Egypt, this is what we were hearing, exactly what you said, that the Muslim Brotherhood was democratic, that they may not like us, but they're nonviolent and they're not terrorists. As a result of our reaching out to the Muslim Brotherhood, we alienated both sides, because the Muslim Brotherhood is never going to stop hating us. But then those that didn't like the Muslim Brotherhood also turned on us. They saw us as capitulating to the enemy side. And that's why President Obama's approval rating fell to single digits in Egypt, why the American approval rating, which initially went up a little bit, completely collapsed to levels even worse than what President Bush had. And now the new Egyptian government, which hates the Muslim Brotherhood and by extension very much doesn't like the Obama administration, is saying, President Obama, you don't get it. You can go after ISIS, but that's just one manifestation of an ideology that combines mosque and state. They came out of the Muslim Brotherhood, and you need to endorse our fight against the Muslim Brotherhood and like-minded terrorists throughout the region.
My initial take, Ryan Mauro, is this president will never do that. If for no other reason, he doesn't want to look bad publicly in front of the world, certainly not in front of the American people. What has been the White House's reaction to those tough words by the Egyptian government?
I think presidents and politicians, by their very nature, are very prideful, and they also calculate their moves. So you're exactly right. The White House is not going to reverse their position because, number one, they still believe that they're correct, and number two, it would be politically damaging to them. So the White House reaction has really been silence. The Egyptian government and the United Arab Emirates, for example, carried out airstrikes on Islamic terrorists in Libya. They didn't even tell the United States because they didn't want to give us a chance to oppose them on that. So the White House right now is trying to court Egypt in relation to battling ISIS because Egypt does have an important role to play. And the Egyptians are saying, we are fully on board with fighting ISIS, but we're telling you that your strategy is fundamentally flawed. And if you don't change it, you're going to continuously chase each manifestation of Islamic terrorism and ultimately get nowhere.
Speaking of flawed strategy, it is not just the Egyptian government that is telling the Obama White House their strategy is flawed when it comes to ISIS. It turns out, a story you're following closely, Ryan Mauro, is President Obama and his advisors are on a totally different page than his top military commanders when it comes to fighting ISIS. What can you tell us about that?
Right. According to consistent leaks to the media, military commanders do want more American advisors on the ground, and they also want to move the advisors up. What I mean is that they're not advocating sending in combat troops at this time to shoot it out with ISIS directly. But what a lot of military officials are saying is that we do need American advisors there on the front lines, helping the Iraqis who are shooting it out, so that they can get firsthand experience and be there to help manage the battle. I have mixed feelings about that. I think it's obvious that there needs to be more American advisors, and it's possible that President Obama will cave and do that. But we also do have to avoid putting American soldiers in harm's way on the battlefield directly, because that's exactly what ISIS wants. When I monitor their social media accounts, the way they're encouraging each other right now is by saying, don't worry, sooner or later the Americans are going to send boots on the ground, and then that's when things are going to turn around, and those are going to be our glory days.
Why are you against that? I've spoken to several military strategists who say, look, if we want to win this thing, if we want to wipe them out once and for all, we have the resources to do it. It will not come from airstrikes. It will come from boots on the ground. It may take 2 or 3 years, but if we commit to it, it's over.
Because first of all, I don't think it's worth the potential cost, and it overly complicates things. I highlight 4 reasons at the Clarion Project why we should avoid that. And to be clear, I'm not opposed to special operations raids, to having more advisors on the ground. But as for actually sending in combat units to shoot out with ISIS, I think, especially right now, it would be counterproductive. The strategy has only been in place 1 month, so to declare it a failure is premature, and it will result in a broader battle because you will have Sunni terrorists that are not ISIS pounce on American soldiers because they would love the opportunity. You would have Iranian-backed militias doing the same. They've already said that they'll do that. So it'll very quickly become a bigger battle. And ultimately, the Iraqis have to take care of this problem anyway. So it would be, to some degree, just delaying the inevitable.
All right, Ryan Mauro with the Egyptian government telling President Obama he's wrong. We have the top military advisors telling President Obama his strategy is wrong. And now we come to find out that U.S. relief humanitarian agencies are supplying food, supplies, and money to members of ISIS. It's like the Keystone Cops. Ryan Mauro, national security analyst with the Clarion Project, thank you for joining us with insight and perspective from Wall, New Jersey. Up next, 1 million dead by January of 2015. From Ebola, with figures like that from the World Health Organization. Why are we being criticized for overhyping Ebola? That is next. But first, a group of women named ISIS are threatening to sue the media if the media does not stop calling ISIS, ISIS. Stay with me. You're watching The Rick Amato Show on One American News.
In the history of terrorist organizations, none has ever been given a woman's name.
Hi, my name is ISIS.
If our petition and plight are not reason enough for journalists to do the right thing and refrain from using our name, we will be left with no other recourse but to turn to the United States judicial system to intervene.
My baby's name is ISIS.
A class action lawsuit is our last resort.